Anyone who studies narrative can tell you that there are a lot of ways to tell a story that have nothing to do with what we typically think of as storytelling. In literature, writers use point of view, word choice, and setting description. In music, the way you play something is equally as important as what's listed on the sheet music. In movies, costume and set design, lighting, and shot arrangement are equally as important as the script. Video games offer the unique position of combining all of these storytelling techniques from literature, music, film, and other forms of media into one package, while also adding its own element of interactivity. There is a massive amount of potential in the video game format for packing as much narrative information as possible into one gaming experience. And I'm here today to talk about one of my favorite games that I think does a pretty good job. Among the Sleep by Crowbite Studios. Among the Sleep is an indie adventure horror game in which you play as a toddler. Your trusty teddy bear guides you through minor puzzles while you run and hide from an inky black monster and try desperately to locate your missing mother. At the end of the game, it's revealed that the monster you were running from was in fact your drunk and angry mother who isn't handling the divorce very well. On the top end, Among the Sleep gives a lot of vital information through cutscenes and dialogue. The game starts with a brief cutscene that establishes the main character and hints at a bit of the main conflict, and throughout the game a teddy bear acts as your guide. For the purposes of this video, I will be calling him Mr. Teddy. Mr. Teddy guides you through the tutorial and motivates the player to keep searching for their mother, the primary goal throughout the entire game. Among the Sleep also features more implicit storytelling. Overall, the game visually focuses on warping childlike and whimsical scenery to be as creepy as possible. The toys and the nature elements mixing with indoor furniture gives me a very Alice in Wonderland vibe. On top of that is fog and darkness and an almost monochromatic color palette that makes everything feel 10 times as creepy as it did before. Layered even on top of that is the eerie music, the shrill background noise that indicates the monster is nearby, and the thumping of your heart in your ears. All of these elements together, in the context of playing through the eyes of the main character, tell a very particular story of a toddler who feels threatened in an environment where they should feel safe and surrounded by toys. One of my favorite visual tools used is a set of paintings that are key to a puzzle. In 3 parts, the entire story of how this game came to be is illustrated in these Transcendent era paintings, which move as the player approaches them. In the first one, we can see the father figure walking away and disappearing in the distance. In the second, the mother figure draws from a well, drinks from it, and then walks towards the river. In this image, you can see the strings of black coming off of the top of her head in much the same way as the monster, and we have the story of how the monster came to be. In the third painting, the mother is reading to the daughter, when she appears to become warped and then disappear, leaving the daughter to read on her own. The techniques we've talked about so far can be just as easily mimicked in a film or novel or musical score, but narrative through gameplay mechanics are exclusive to games. The basics of what the character can do and to what extent, crawl, walk, run, interact, fit really well in the context of playing as a toddler, and I think that the fact that crawling is faster than walking, while running is faster than crawling but will cause the player to topple over if done for too long, also adds to the story by limiting how fast the player can run away from the monster and what they can do to get away. I found myself crawling a lot more often than walking or running. Crawling also put me at an advantage because I was already at the right height, hide under tables and chairs when the monster was nearby or outright chasing me. Especially towards the beginning of the game, a lot of the threats are purely imagined. Glowing eyes peering out from the darkness, a tree shaped like a person designed to scare the hell out of the player when they pop out of a window, a coat with shoes underneath that at first glance I thought was the monster and had a small heart attack, the noise of the washing machine that I was convinced was the monster, and so on and so forth. This shows us how the toddler's mind creates threats out of thin air when they're already feeling threatened, and simultaneously shows us how our minds can do the same thing. Mr. Teddy acts as a guide for the player and a source for light in scary environments. Light and warmth seem to symbolize safety, hence why a recurring pattern is warmth and light being extinguished as the monster grows nearer. Mr. Teddy both literally and metaphorically lights the player's path towards safety. It's also worth noting that Mr. Teddy was played by the same voice actor as the father character who appears to rescue the player at the end of the game. This may imply that the toddler perceives the father figure as the one who usually guides them and keeps them safe from their mother when she's in a drunken fit of rage. A common theme present throughout the game is memory. The player has the option to collect drawings, many of which appear to be memories of running and hiding from the monster, or memories of being given toys, or of the father that appears to not be in the picture anymore. The game is advanced by reaching memories and retrieving prized toys. In Trauma Survivors, repressed memory and flashbacks aren't uncommon, and as the toddler is actively undergoing a traumatic situation that has been ongoing for God knows how long, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the focus on memory is supposed to allude to the long-term effects on mental health this kind of situation is likely to result in. Young children so early in their neurological development are especially susceptible to develop trauma-related mental illness such as PTSD, but luckily they have better odds to heal from their experiences. The hide mechanic, in which the player ducks under tables and into cabinets to escape the monster, was both fitting and telling. You're a toddler, not a main character in an action-adventure film. You're not going to pick up the sword of ultimate courage and fight back with evil. It makes sense that a toddler's primary defense would be to run and hide. Once you play to the end of the game, and it's revealed that the monster was really your mother the entire time, it puts a different kind of spin on things. If you took this game and stripped away the fearful fugue and warped perception of a terrified child with an active imagination, this turns into a game about a toddler who spends their time running and hiding from their angry, drunken mother, who runs around the house chasing her child down, throwing cabinets open, violently grabbing for them in their supposedly safe hiding spots, and littering the place with empty bottles in her wake. This game showcases what it might feel like to be a toddler trapped in a domestic abuse situation, the lack of control, inability to even begin to fight back or help themselves, and the constant threat to their safety.